Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Beyond Behavior. Today, I have the amazing autism advocate, autism mom, all around amazing human, Heidi Rome. And today, we're going to be talking about the book that she wrote about her son, You Just Have to Love Me. And I think that it is such a profound story of what you have gone through with your son, and but it also talks about how it speaks to what you're doing as an autism advocate to help other parents as well. So talk about what inspired you to write the book to begin with, because when we had this initial conversation, I just got chills as you explained it to me.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Kristan. It is truly an honor and a delight to be here with you. And because I know the work that you're doing with our same audience, our autism moms. So it is a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you for asking me to share my story. My story and the book were inspired by my journey with my younger son, Ethan, who is now 16, and Ethan has severe autism. So the journey has been a challenging one. Any of the autism journeys, wherever they are on that spectrum, has its own challenges. And the end, though, the severe end has its own set, not only of the social skill pieces that our kids need, but on the severe end, we're talking about medical issues. We're talking about people who cannot speak or have unreliable speech. We're talking about people who are dysregulated and very often have dysregulated behaviors. So that end of the spectrum and the journey on the severe end of the spectrum has its own challenges, and all came together in the book, because with great difficulty comes the great opportunity to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when was Ethan initially diagnosed? How old was he?
He was about 18 months old. It
Mm-hmm.
was certainly before he was 2. There were signals, the signals that things were not quite right happened fairly quickly. Even as an infant, he was not, he cried very rarely. We were so happy that he was sleeping through the night. Wow, what a quiet baby, what a good baby. And we noticed very young that he was not babbling. So he was just silent. There was none, even as he got a bit older, beyond newborn, no languaging at all that you hear with little babies, the mama, mama, baba, baba, none of that. We only heard laughter in the middle of the night on the baby monitor, or we would drive past certain places like cell towers. And every time we would pass a certain locale, Ethan, from his baby seat in the back, would utter a tone, a single note. Ah, and we didn't know what it was. We had no idea about autism at all at that point. We did remark, though, gee, I wonder if he's hearing something that we're not attuned to. So very early, there were the signals that something was up with him, and that his development was different from typical kids. So ultimately, not meeting milestones physically, not sitting up at 9 months, and just different things that we started addressing with physical therapy. But then as time went on and other milestones were missed, we realized there was more going on here developmentally for him. But we got the first, it was PDD-NOS was the diagnosis. They don't like to use the word autism too quickly, the doctor said, but ultimately there it was. And I can tell you that when she used that word and gave us the official diagnosis that day, I was not a good sport about it. And it was a tough one. In fact, I had a very visceral, strong reaction of anger and denial all in one, all kinds of not nice words flashing through my mind. And I was very angry with the doctor. I was like, what's wrong with her?
Mm-hmm.
Because this can't be true. So that was yeah, he was not even 2 years old yet.
Well, and I think it just speaks to the emotional process that parents go through.
Yes.
You know, there's almost this, at least for me, it was this grief or loss because my son didn't, he was my quiet observer for the longest time and had issues with headbutting and picky eating. And, you know, I'd always think to myself, why does every meal have to be a challenge? You know, every day there was something, something, something. So, I mean, we did get in-home support. So talk to me a little bit in the beginning, after you got the diagnosis, what did that in-home support look like for you? And what was the best advice you ever got?
Mm, interesting. Well, with the diagnosis, I will say, we started with early intervention very young with the physical therapy. And as he was missing the milestones, and certainly once autism was even a named thing going on as in this child, um, all the resources came out, all the traditional resources and therapies were recommended by early intervention and the neurologist herself early on. So the classic, well, he was getting physical therapy, and I guess there was not really occupational therapy at that point, very young, but we had a play therapist to come in, and I wanted a speech therapist because I thought he's not talking. What I came to learn was, you know, there's so much involved with speech therapy. It's not about the talking as much as all the muscles and all the breathing and all the things that go into the preparation for speech that, that launch the whole speech process. So, I had to argue, well, I want that person in now, um, to do whatever magic in my mind she can do. And then, of course, the neurologists, the doctors are told that with autism, you give ABA. And so even at that early age, she was suggesting, I think she was saying, 40 hours a week of ABA for this little guy. And we weren't arguing because the language, the message is that are said to parents, I don't know if this is still the message, but basically that, okay, little kid or baby and autism, early intervention, early therapy is crucial. And the window of neuroplasticity is going to close. So it is presented as a race against time to get this all in, this very intensive superhuman effort now, early, in order to give the child the best chance for all the parts of the brain to new pathways to be developed and new things to be done within the brain, so that to compensate, to do what needs to be done in the face of this condition, but hurry up. And to give an example, I remember with the speech therapist at one point, and we were having people in the house all the time, day and night, weekends, weekdays, didn't matter. And she was asking me, this was earlier on, about scheduling for the weekend, and she said to me, well, what's your schedule like this weekend, or what are you doing this weekend, or some such thing. And I said, I remember the tightness in my chest, and I remember saying to her, his window is closing. I have no schedule. My schedule is your schedule. When can you come? Everything went into, when is this expert going to come to the house to heal my suffering, broken child in time so that his life is not ruined.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is still the message, I believe. The When there's an autism diagnosis that's synonymous with ABA, fortunately the conversation around neuroplasticity has changed. So we realize that the brain has, this ability to mold and mend and heal in different ways as children get older. So thankfully, there's a lot of hope there. But as an autism parent, working with in the field for the last 15 years, there's so much that families sacrifice.
Yes.
And so you fought so hard to understand how the system works and those emptive skills that he needed for speech. So talk to us about when he eventually did get speech, because that really helps us understand how your book evolves with the adaptive communication that Ethan learned. So talk to us about when you finally did get a speech and what that looked like.
That made a huge difference vibrationally, energetically, emotionally in the house, in my life. It made all the difference in the world because language is the reflection of what's going on with this child,
Mm.
and a tool for any human being. Language is the way we express our inner world, what's going on in our experience. And as a mom, especially with a little kid, who was clearly in distress very often, language is the magic tool to what's going on, what is needed in this moment. How can I help my kid and meet his needs? How much better it is if he can tell me. Otherwise, it's a guessing game, and it's a very soul crunching guessing game, because you are 99% of the time wrong. You're not getting whatever it is in that moment. So the languaging was really a critical thing. Ethan had the ability to speak, thank God. Not all the kids do. So Ethan does have some language. He has the ability to speak. It was very limited, mostly on food and expressing his wants. But even expressing his wants took time. So in the beginning, it was very, very limited language, although he did have a little bit. The first school, which was strict ABA, which I would not recommend as the single thing to use with any child, but this school was that. It was presented as the tool that covered all bases. And with the right reinforcement, the idea was he'll talk. What they said is if he wants to speak enough, he will. Which is like, I did not agree, but in that period of time, you feel, I think very often mothers do this in their despair, in their fear, they turn over their own authority as mom to an expert who is saying, I have the key to help your child. And since that is the single desire of your heart, is to help your kid, if someone says, even this harsh thing, even this thing that you have reservations about, this is the key, if you can stay the path, in the beginning, you're like, okay, I'll stay the path. But the language in the beginning for Ethan, we never found the reinforcement that enabled him to do fluent speech. I was secretly, it said it had to be secret, but I was secretly taking him for speech therapy as he got older, because I thought, I need someone to work with him and work with those muscles and do the things that a speech therapist I knew how to do. And she used prompt therapy, and that was extraordinary in helping even more language evolve and develop. So speech is a huge aspect of it, because the ability to communicate is it's a core human right, and it's a core human need. So the focus on that became a central thing. So when we changed schools, and the new school that was not focused on behavior, it was focused on relationship and play and determining the root of the behavior, because behavior is communication in the absence of speech. So with that new perspective, and they offered these alternative assistive communication, that opened the door for us to at least begin to get a glimpse of who Ethan truly was. So that was a complete game changer for us, the ability for Ethan to express himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was specifically when you told me the story about the title of the book. So if you could convey to our audience how that unfolded in that moment.
Yes. Well, it was a tough journey.
Mhm.
And I think you've picked up by now that certainly in the beginning, my attitude was a very fearful one and rooted in my belief that Ethan was broken
Mhm.
and disabled, broken, suffering. And my role, if I were to be a good mother, was to fix him, to figure out the healer, the therapist, the doctor, the educator who had the potion that would magically heal Ethan. And I spent a lot of time doing that and dragging him day and night, all kinds of therapists, all kinds of therapies, yoga, injections, food, you name it. We did everything. And ultimately, even with all that, and even within his new school, the spelling technology that enabled him to finally express himself and reveal a profound intelligence and spiritual connection, with all that, he still had autism. He still was wired differently. He still was extremely sensitive to all sensory stimuli. He still was dysregulated.
Mhm.
Transitions were still difficult. The unexpected was still difficult. And he still had aggressive behaviors, distressed, dysregulated behaviors that were harming him and harming us. And we made the gut-wrenching decision for Ethan to go to a residential school for kids with severe autism so that he could get that 24/7 support that he needed. And my heart was breaking. He was 11 years old, and I had spent years trying to avoid just this. But ultimately, I came to see that it was not about me. It was about him and what did he need. And he needed that high level of support. And we needed to release him to go receive that and
Mhm.
let us, his family, be there for him and allow that to happen. And then also take back our own lives, which had been put on hold in the futile attempts to meet Ethan's needs. So the typing was the way that Ethan was able to express himself. And I knew, though, that since it's a controversial method, we won't for another day. But even though we knew that for Ethan, it was truth, that he was speaking the truth through it, because we would test it. We would ask him questions that only he would know the answer to, and it was always accurate. But I knew that when he left, we would lose the typing.
Mhm.
And so I uh, went in extra times to type with him in anticipation of that. And this one time, I knew Ethan was okay with making the move to the school because they had had a party for him, a farewell party at the school, and they put together a beautiful little memory book for him as a farewell gift. We love you, we'll miss you. There are photos, and there was a page called Ethan's Wisdom. They had asked Ethan, how do you feel about going to this new school far away? It was out of state. And the page were Ethan's responses to that question. I'll miss Celebrate the Children, but my journey takes me to Boston. I am making a huge change and I feel brave. Don't be sad for me. Are quitters a failure or choosing a different path to success? So I'm reading this and I'm like, well, I'm a mess, but he's fine. He, he's good. Mom's a wreck, but he's good. But I really, because mind you, I still had not released this attitude, this deep belief and assumption about my role. I felt like I was failing as a mom by letting him go. I never found the cure. I never found the thing that would repair his autism. And so in my heart was aching. I had failed him.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that I found the courage to listen to what he needed and make that choice. And that felt right. But I still felt like I really had dropped the ball on what my job was. And I went in this extra time to work with Ethan because I knew when he left, we would lose the typing. And the story that is at the heart of the book was a core conversation that you're referring to, the conversation that changed my life. It was Ethan being my supreme teacher on this journey. And the student had to learn, the student was ready. And so Ethan, as my teacher, showed up in that role for me. I had gone in that day and I said, Ethan, I realized, I know you enjoy going to the special needs service at the synagogue every month, but I realized I never asked you, what are your thoughts about God? And I had no expectation in this conversation. I just thought, it just came out of me to ask. So Ethan responded through the typing, God is in my heart and he will always protect me. Well, Kristan, I was not expecting that at all, at all. I remember being kind of a smart aleck in my answer. I said, did he tell you that? Like where'd that come from, kid?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Like what? When I lived in heaven, he told me that. Do you remember that time? When I lived with God, I wasn't named Ethan yet. What was your name? I was not to remember it. I had many before. Do you remember anything from that time? And at that point, Ethan said verbally, no, thank you. But he typed, we should talk about it when no one is here. I said, Ethan, who should leave? Should Lisa, the teacher, leave? And Ethan verbally said, no. So Lisa said to him, should mom leave? And Ethan verbally said, no. There was one more person in the room. Because of the severe behavior, we had to have a strong young man with us all the time to keep everyone safe. And Kyle was a sweetheart, but he was skeptical about the typing. And Ethan felt that.
Mm.
So when I said, should Kyle leave? Ethan said a word that's difficult for him. He actually was sweating when he said it. He said, yes. So Kyle left the room and Ethan continued to type. I remember life with no body. When you go to heaven, there are no bodies, just spectacular energy. Did you choose to come here as Ethan Rome? Yes, I picked to be me and have many challenges. Did you pick us as your family? We were family before. We didn't live here. We lived in a small group, but got hurt by warriors. Why did you choose to come back with challenges? I will be greatly rewarded in eternity. Is there anything we should do to help you? I have to complete my journey as prescribed by God. Does it feel longer than you thought it would be? Yes, the journey is unfathomably longer than expected. And I had to ask him again, what should we do to help you on the journey? You just have to love me, and that is your job. The rest is my job to do.
Wow.
Kristan, I remember how my body felt. I was very present in that conversation. And I remember how it felt when I heard those nourishing, healing words. And I took a deep breath, which I think was the first deep breath I had taken in 11 years. And the thought that went through my body, there was this wave of relief. And the thought when he said, you just have to love me, my whole being, the words responded, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't fix him. I couldn't heal him. I couldn't change him. Love him, I can do that. And that was a new empowerment, because the good news is it's not our job to fix or change another human being. It is only ever our job to love and accept unconditionally what is. We can only change ourselves and make choices, empowering choices for ourselves. And in doing that, that is extraordinarily powerful and healing for us, loving ourselves first, and for our child. It is in loving ourselves powerfully that we can then love our child even more powerfully. Now, what does love entail? It's still my role as his mom in that loving and accepting, to guide him, educate him, protect him, nourish him, support him.
Mm-hmm.
But none of that is living his life for him.
Yeah.
Even anyone, any human, whatever the special need or not, we only are the driver of our own life, the author of our own life. And our role is to be the wind beneath his wings. He must fly for himself. And
Yeah.
that is life.
I love that. And that's why I wanted to spend time and talk with you about the book, because I think when we work here with so many autism parents, they need that empowerment. They need those encouraging words. They need to hear stories of people that have been there before. Because as you know, this journey is very, very isolating at sometimes. You're going through so many emotions. So if other parents resonate with your story, or they're going through a similar journey, how can they reach you, Heidi? Is there a particular website or email that they can reach you at?
Absolutely easy to reach me, HeidiRome.com, HeidiRome.com. And there's email there. There are all ways to reach me there, find out more about my idea. It's all about saying to mom, trust yourself. You are the expert. You were born to this. You were designed for this. It is your purpose in this. And this was Ethan's guidance to me. To all moms, we chose it. We were born to it. We have all we need to do it. We just have to listen, take back the authority, trust ourselves, trust our gut. We know what to do. And when we get scared, I don't know, it's okay. Put your hand on your heart, calm down and just listen and just ask yourself an empowering question. What is the loving thing to do right now? What is needed in this situation? How can I be of service? Because when you come from the intention of love, not fixing, not changing, how can I be loving right now? The amazing good news is there are no mistakes. Anything you choose is correct because everything is learning and everything is moving forward in the intention of love. And when you go to that, you can release the fear and go back to that inner knowing. And as Ethan said, God is in your heart and will always protect you. When you remember that, you can breathe again and find that wisdom that lives there.
I love it. I love it. Well, not only, I mean, the knowledge, the empowerment that you're sharing lives on through the book. So how can more parents get access to your book? It's on Amazon.
Yes, it's on Amazon. And just Heidi Rome, You Just Have to Love Me is the title.
I love it. I love it. And I really can't wait for more parents to hear this, buy the book, and really gain the knowledge and the resources that you have been through on this journey with Ethan. And we're never coming from a place of judgment. We want autonomy with our parents, to make those choices for themselves. And really, what you've talked about today, too, is trusting your gut as a parent. And a lot of times you're relying on these professionals, but really trust your gut in all of this and really find what speaks to your heart. So, Heidi, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and hopefully we'll have a chance to chat again, and we'll definitely share this out with our entire network because more and more people need to know about it.
Well, thank you, Kristan, and thank you for being one of the crucial resources that our Autism Mom community needs so desperately. Because yes, we trust our gut, but part of how we gain strength, especially as moms, as women, is in community of people who have your back and understand what you've been through and are in community with you. And so that's part of this. And thank you for being that go-to person for our moms.
I'm happy I can help, Heidi, and it makes it all the easier to align myself with people like you. You're just amazing and incredible. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank
Have a
you.
great day.